Well, good morning again, Living Church.
How y'all doing this morning?
Week 3 of our series on marriage rescue. Have you guys ever found yourself in a conversation kind of like that sketch where you're arguing about one thing and then you just start throwing bombs and throwing haymakers?
Once or twice.
Yep.
Once
Yeah,
or twice.
just a couple, little much.
Once or twice a week, those kind of things. Those kind of things come up. We've been in this series talking about how marriage can be difficult, it can be tough. And so the first week we talked about how to fight fair.
Yeah.
And so if you missed that, go check it out. Then last week we talked about singleness. And so I think that went really good. So one more time, if you're single in the room, raise your hand.
Come on,
single,
look around.
Just hold it up for a
Hold
little
it
while.
up.
Okay.
Hey, God could answer
matchmaking.
your prayer need
Everyone look around.
right now.
Can I tell you a real thing?
Yeah.
I have 2 friends that I'm going to introduce after this first service.
Whoa.
Y'all be praying because I'm excited about it.
Matchmaking Whitney.
Oh my word.
No old habits die hard. You've been doing that your whole life.
Hey,
No
I
pressure.
I try.
So week 3, today we're talking about parenting.
That's right.
Any parents in the house, moms and dads,
Come
wave
on.
at me.
Yeah.
Bless them, Lord, help them, Jesus. And so we're talking about parenting because
That's
really
right.
it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Parenting's a giant thing.
It's
is.
really one of the hardest jobs, but one of the most rewarding jobs. One
Yeah.
of the greatest blessings that we get, but one of the most trying things.
Right. But the true reward comes when you're grandparents.
Hey, that's true. That's what
Oh
I
yeah,
hear.
we're the
That's what I
grandparents.
hear.
Wave at us, grandparents.
Hey.
All right.
You spoil them and you give them back. That's what you do.
And when you make it to grandparenthood, that's the best hood.
That's
from,
right.
From what I understand. My mom and dad celebrated 49 years this last week. so
Oh,
I'm so
come on.
thankful for them and what they did and with all my shenanigans.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It's good. But yeah, today we're talking about the subject of parenting. And you know, with a topic like this, we know that there's a lot of different dynamics in the room. There's lots of different seasons of life in the room. And so just straight from the top, I want to mention that if you're in the season of praying to become parents, and God has not yet answered that prayer. Maybe you've been struggling. Maybe you've been walking through infertility. Can I tell you that we love you? We see you.
Yeah.
And though that might be a painful thing to listen in this morning, we're with you in prayer, and we believe that God's promises are true, and He's going
right.
to answer your prayer today.
That's
And
right.
so this
Amen.
wisdom is wisdom you will need, and we were going to speak that with authority, that you will need it someday.
We've seen God do the miraculous in couple after couple here at Living
That's
Church.
right.
And so we believe that God has great things for you. Or maybe you're on the other side of the spectrum and you have kids that are older. And when we talk about parenting, you've got some sadness in your heart
Yeah.
or some regret. Maybe you've got kids that are far away from the Lord. And we want you to know that we're praying for you, that the
That's
Bible
right.
says that God will draw all men unto Himself.
Right.
And so my encouragement to you would be start praying for your kids that God would send somebody else to be a light to them.
Right.
Somebody else, because maybe your voice is a little worn out in their ear. Pray that God would send you a partner in faith that you don't even know to tell your kid about how much God loves them.
And continue to be loving. You know, here at Living Church, we talk all the time about showing love and speaking truth, but I believe in this season of life, just keep showing them love.
Right.
And let God do the other part to bring the truth.
Yeah, and so we're going to jump into some questions
right.
we've got today, and we want you to know, we do not think that we're parenting experts. I'm not sure that anybody is a parenting expert, maybe until their child is like 50. Like, once your kid's 50 and they're doing good,
You
then,
feel like you made it.
then maybe
yeah.
you did a good job.
Once you're a grandparent, you get a second chance to do it again. Right?
That's right.
And so we're definitely still in seasons of learning ourselves
That's right.
and how to parent well.
And the truth is, in this parenting, like, God's wisdom is what reigns supreme. It's the only reason we've been able to even do it.
Yeah. Then time and time again, there's times where you're looking at me and I'm looking at you and we're like, what do we do with this?
Right.
How do we navigate this situation with these kids?
Right.
And we just have to stop and pray and say,
That's
God,
right.
help us because we don't know what the junk we're doing.
That's right.
You know, the Bible talks a lot about parenting. And so we've got a bunch of verses throughout the kind of conversation today. Let me just read a few. Proverbs 4:7, it says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. The
Yeah.
most important thing that you can have in parenting is godly wisdom. Yes, we can read books. Yes, we can create plans and strategies. But knowing how to hear what God's speaking to you in a real active moment is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Your relationship with God is the most important piece of parenting. And that's echoed in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6. It says, commit yourselves, that's us as moms and dads, commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands in the Bible that I'm giving you today. And it says this, repeat them again and again to your children.
Yeah.
That the things that we should be repeating to our kids is not just our ideas or our opinions, but it's what God's word says to us.
It's true. That's right. So we got a lot of questions we're going to walk through today, and they're kind of from all over the place, but we're going to do our best to get them answered. Let's jump in.
All right, let's do it. Question number 1, it says, we have a bun in the oven. What's about to change?
Oh man,
Enjoy those days while you got them.
you hear the laughter, like it's all about to go down.
All of it.
It's all gonna change.
Right.
That's all.
Another question. The Bible says that children are a gift from God. Then why does it feel like ever since we had our 3-year-old, life has been far from a reward. A reward.
Yeah,
It's
chaos
not a
is
reward,
it.
right?
Yes,
The terrible twos
that
and
kind of
threes.
goes with this third question. It says, this kid is ruining my life. No more date nights, no more spare money, no more sleep, no more sex. Help me.
Straight shooter right there.
That's right.
Yeah, straight shooter.
I think clearly questions 2 and 3 answer question 1, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's right.
Man, you know, when you have kids,
Yeah.
you step into a whole new season where
Right.
there's a new focus.
Right.
So yeah, things do change. There are a lot of shifts that happen in life. And so in that new season, you have to have new focuses, new
Right.
focus towards responsibility. Yeah.
No, it's true. I think that, man, it's not that your life has changed. It's just that your season of life has changed, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, I remember when we had Easton, it wasn't planned, and we were.
He
Easton
was
says,
a
"What?"
surprise,
It was
not
a
a
surprise.
mistake.
No,
a
that's
surprise.
right. It was a surprise.
That's right.
But young married couple,
Yeah.
young parents.
I mean, y'all have been married for just a couple months.
He was
and found out you were
born.
pregnant.
He was born 1 week before our 1-year anniversary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a tumultuous
Yeah,
season
it was
of your pregnancy, because we're like, what do we do?
We're just now in new marriage season, and now we're in
Yeah.
this new baby season, and so we have to know that our focus has to just shift.
Right.
We had been married for 5 years,
Yeah.
and we were like, okay, we are gonna wait. We had it planned. We were gonna wait 5 years, and then we'll be ready for kids after that. Our marriage will be ready.
Yeah.
And then at 5 years, we got pregnant, and we were like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah,
This is
we should have
real.
waited 5 more. Wait, what is happening? But there's really a different, there's a shift. There's
Yeah.
a shift in everything. And so if you have young kids and you feel like, man, our marriage is falling apart, no. You're in a new season.
Right.
Like there's a new stressor. There's a new dynamic in your
Right.
relationship. Your wife is now someone's mom. And that was weird that Rachel's love and attention that was towards me is now towards another human being. And I'm
Right.
over here all like, well, what about me?
Make your
you know?
own tacos.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's when we can understand that we're just in that new season, it helps us.
It's not going to ruin our life, but it's just a
Right.
different season of life. So we have to be intentional.
You do. You have to take things a little bit more serious with your time.
Yeah.
And where your attention goes to, because it is. You brought a human life
Right.
into the world, and so you just gotta be intentional.
Make time for date nights. Like something we
Yep.
decided to do was still find time for date night, even if in those early years it meant at 8:30 on the couch after they went to bed, we
Right.
were gonna just not be distracted by anything else, but have a date on the couch.
Right.
We had to be intentional.
Yeah.
We had to be intentional with our money.
Yeah, we just had not too long ago, we had a parents' night out, which we do every once in a while at Living Church, where we just let you drop your kids
Yeah.
off at the church so that you guys can go out on a date. And I talked to a couple in the lobby, and they said, Pastor, this is our first time out on a date in 3 years.
3 years.
And
It's true.
I thought, you know,
First time. Unbelievable.
like, man, there's got to be a way to find a sitter, to get
Yeah.
somebody, get into a life group, find someone who can watch your kid. Go, like 3 years is way too long,
Oh, it is.
because
Right.
it's not just about parenting, it's about having a healthy marriage.
No, it's true, but all the things are just kind of a split focus. Like it's not that you shifted your focus from your spouse to your kids, but now it has to be divided.
Yeah.
And so in our money, in our dates, in our sex life, like all these things had to be suddenly shifted and changed.
That's
Yeah,
true.
you know, for us, it was even your nighttime routine. Our kids did not like to sleep at night. I don't know why. They just were like, "Ooh, nighttime party." Any other parents have that?
Yeah.
And even as they got older, we had Titus who would be bored in his bed, I guess, at night, and would just end up in our bed every
Which would
night.
leave me bored in my bed. Like, get that junker out of here.
This is my life, yeah.
Hey, I know what that's like. Whenever we first had Easton, he slept in our bed for the
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
how many months?
For months and months
Months
and
and
months.
months. And then when my mom and dad came into town, they were living in Arizona at the time. They came into town and my mom says, hey, where's Easton? He's not in his room in his bed.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, yeah, he sleeps in ours. And he sleeps in, she says, every night?
Yeah.
He's all night? We're like, yeah. She's like, no, that's about to change this
No,
week.
right.
So within a week, she had that joker in his own bed, and I thank God ever since.
Yeah.
Man.
And then
Yeah, it
pretty
makes it
soon
tough.
after that, McKinley was born.
Yeah. But that girl wants her own space
No,
all the
it's
time. We
true.
never had a problem
But
with that.
everything shifts. Your vacations
Yeah,
shift.
yeah.
Like, remember the relaxingness of your honeymoon? That is not how vacations are when your kids come into play.
We just went to Disney, and it was anything but relaxing.
Oh no, it was hard
kids.
work.
It was a beating. Yeah.
It was hard work.
It was wonderful.
opposite of
It was
relaxation.
memory making, but it was not a vacation. It was
Right.
a trip, right?
Yeah. It was fun, but just not relaxing.
But I think for us on the other side of it now, where our kids are starting to step into the season where they're moving out of the house, we even more recognize how these seasons will change.
Yeah.
Because though your season has changed and now you're parents, your season will change again. And suddenly you'll find yourself back together on the couch on Friday night like, hey,
No,
what's
it's
up?
true. It's true. Things move so fast, and all the parents in the room, they understand this. That Whitney says it a lot, that the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
And so it's important to remember that as parents, especially when you have long days.
Yeah.
I've told Whitney and Trust and Rachel that you always remember what you did when you were 16, 18, these monumental years of your life. You remember those years. Do you remember what you did when you were 23? When you're 36?
Right.
When you're 32? You don't remember as much then, but those pivotal years of teenagerhood and even younger adolescence are so important.
Right.
Right.
So we got to make the most of our time.
So as moms
Right.
and dads, we have to remember
Right.
Yeah.
that if we remember what sixth grade was like,
Right.
our kids are going to remember what
do.
sixth
Right.
grade was like. And so we have to be intentional.
It's,
So,
it's in those long days that Whitney mentions. It's in those long days that you build the memories to look back in the sweet short years.
Yeah. Right.
And so they're important, so important.
It's super important.
So we received tons of questions, and so we put them in some categories like we have over the last
Yeah.
couple weeks. And so we received a lot of questions about rules and discipline. How do we establish rules? How do we create discipline? People are already clapping for these questions. Here's one. Somebody said, everything feels like an uphill battle with my kids. Please help.
Another one says, my kids say I'm way more strict than their friends' parents. How do I know if I'm being too strict?
Another one says, I'm fighting with my teenager constantly about everything. When do I know when to stand my ground, or when do I let it go?
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Last one here says, no matter what I say, they won't listen. What should I do? Well, the Bible gives us some clarity on that.
Yeah.
Actually, in Proverbs 29:17, it says, discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind and make your heart glad. Children need discipline. And I'm
Right.
going to tell you as a teacher,
No.
I can tell which kids are disciplined at home and which kids as high schoolers are not disciplined at
Oh,
home.
yeah,
because
no.
it shows in their day-to-day work.
Yeah,
And
they-
so it's wisdom.
They need those guardrails, the
Yeah.
parameters, right?
And
Yeah.
discipline means way more than a spanking.
Right.
Yes,
The discipline is a big barometer, which we'll get into in a
Yeah,
minute.
no, it's true.
for sure. In Hebrews 12:11, it says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it.
It's so good. Nobody wants to be disciplined.
Right.
Right.
Like, I remember as a kid not wanting to be disciplined. But now, from this side of perspective as an adult, I'm like, thank God that my
Right.
parents disciplined me and gave me some of those guardrails Aaron was talking about, some parameters, because now I'm actually a productive human being
Right.
because I got disciplined
Well,
as well.
because you were disciplined as a kid, you are now a disciplined person.
Right.
Right.
And
No,
you learn
it's true.
discipline in your life. and
Because, you know, you hear that phrase all the time, pick your battles. And, you know, that's like advice that people give to parents all the time. But the truth is, if we pick the battles when they're young, we won't have as many battles to pick when they're older. And so it's important that from day one, we make the decision to be disciplined parents to help discipline our kids.
No, Rach and I were youth pastors for a lot of years. And my encouragement to any parents of little kids is fight those battles now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you can fight those battles while they're little, it's going to be a lot easier to fight them now than it is to wait till they're 16, 17, 18, where they can actually have logical reasons to argue with you. Just help set that culture of your home.
No, it's something we said from the very beginning.
Raising adults, not kids.
Yeah, that our job as parents is to raise great adults,
Right.
not
Right.
great kids.
Right.
Because that's why you see so many kids still living at mom and dad's house when they're 35, because they're still kids.
Right.
But our job is to raise great adults who can
Right.
step into the world and really accomplish all that God has for them.
And
true.
then when your kids are adults, they'll be thankful for you.
Absolutely.
Man, when I look back, I'm so thankful now that my parents told me no.
Yeah.
There would be a party I'd wanted to go to, and they'd tell me no. And I would be so mad.
Oh, yeah.
But now as an adult, I'm like, thank God they didn't let me go.
No, it's
that
true.
they said no to certain friend groups.
Right.
They would say, no, you are not going out with these friends. No, this is not your girlfriend. This is not your girlfriend, right?
Right.
I was so violently angry with my mom and dad as a teenager in moments.
Yeah.
But now as an adult with some perspective, I'm like, thank God.
Right.
Or my life would have went a very different direction.
Yeah.
No, it's true. When I was a teenager, I remember the time where I snuck out. I went to a Metallica concert with some significantly older friends.
Little Enter Sandman.
A little Enter Sandman. Had a blast.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun, but I came back home and the next morning my brother, he knew, and he said in front of my parents, hey, so Aaron, where were you? What'd you do last night?
Siblings
You
are
know?
the worst.
And he just threw me under the bus. And so, he knew. And so he said, I heard you. So how was the Metallica concert? And mom and dad are looking at each other and me and like, wait, what? And
They didn't
dad,
have that Live 360 back then.
They
You
didn't
could
have
be
that back
tracking
then.
everywhere you were.
Heck no, they don't have anything back then. No cell phones, no nothing.
Yeah.
And so very calmly, my dad said, you went? And I said, I did, yeah. And he said, huh. And so he went to the other part of the house where Ben and I hung out a lot. My brother and I hung out a lot. We played drums, both of us did. And he went to our stash of music. And he grabbed every Metallica, he found them, every one of them, every CD that he found. And he talked to me about it first. And he went out to the garage and he took a hammer to every single one of them.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And at the time I was so mad.
Right.
I was so mad. But I look back and think, I'm glad he did it. I
Right.
needed those parameters because what was I putting into my soil? What was I putting in my,
And there's moments that as moms and dads, we have to let our kids know who's in charge.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
You gotta push your foot down.
So what Jerry was doing was he was telling his son Aaron, hey, I'm in charge. Like
Right.
this is
That's
my
right.
house. And if you pay the bills, you're in charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Period.
pay the bills,
End of discussion.
It's
You're
true.
in charge.
let me tell you
They
something.
don't pay for their own cell phone.
That's your car.
That's right.
That's your cell phone.
That's right.
Those are your clothes they're wearing.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm telling you. And
And he said, if you bring another one of these CDs back into the house, the same result will happen. It will be smashed on the concrete floor in the garage. That's what's going to happen. Because this is our house, this is our rules. So yeah, as
Were
parents,
you-
you got to put your foot down.
Were you also grounded for
Oh, just a minute.
a long minute?
Yeah, a long minute. A long minute.
I remember when I was a kid, my mom had to do that to me a couple times.
Yeah.
Every single year, for years, I got kicked off the bus. I'd get in a fight, I'd do something stupid, some reason I would get kicked off the bus. My mom told me, you're not getting kicked off the bus this year. And so I got in a fight and threw a kid's backpack out the window. And so I was that kid, I'm sorry. And so they're gonna kick me off the bus. And my mom says to me, she says, oh, you're not getting kicked off the bus. So the next day, I get ready for school. I'm thinking my mom's gonna drive me to school. No, she walks me down to the bus stop. And I'm kind of confused of what's going on. And so the bus pulls up and my mom tells me to get on. And then my mom gets on the bus with me. And my dad,
Because the bus driver was protesting.
Yeah.
He said, you're not allowed on the bus.
And
Babel wasn't having it though.
no, the bus driver's like, ma'am, you're not allowed on the bus. She says, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Trust and sit down. And so I sat down, and my mom gets on the bus. My dad pulls up in the van, follows the bus to school, and I've never been so embarrassed in my whole life.
Didn't your mom
Yep.
said to the bus driver, I'm going to teach my son how to behave in the bus.
I'm gonna show him how to ride the bus. And so my mom announces to all my friends, she says, hello, my name's Brenda, I'm Trustin's mom. I'm in like 6th grade. He doesn't know how to act on the bus.
Right.
And so I'm here to show him how to act on the bus. She says, Trustin, cross your hands. Trustin, look forward. And I'm like literally just tears are just streaming down my face. And so we get to school, and my principal is standing outside the school to like the bus driver like radioed like breaker, right? Like let them know like something's going on. Yeah, there's an adult woman on our bus. And so the principal tells my mom she's not allowed to ride the bus, and my mom says, I will do whatever's needed to raise my son. And the bus driver or the principal's like, well, your son's still kicked off the bus. My mom said, no, he isn't. Bye. And I rode the bus the rest of the year.
Man, she went straight Beverly Goldberg on her.
What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, moms and dads, sometimes we have to let our kids know who's in charge.
That's right.
Because I was a very strong-willed kid, still am. And I needed these moments of broken CDs and embarrassment to let me know I'm not in charge.
Right.
But that's not what Jimmy does at their house. That's not what Sally does at their house.
Right.
You hear that junk all the time from your kids. The fact is, no, it might not be, but this is what we do in our house.
That's right.
We do this in our house.
No, it's true.
And that's how you have to take your stand.
No, it's true. It's something we've talked about a long time, and even as pastors, you can feel like, well, you're a pastor, so that's how they act in the pastor's house. No. The Barths behave this way at the Barth house. That's just the way it is. Yeah. And so we aren't trying to make them our best friend. My kids are not going to be my best friend until they're like in their 20s and 30s.
Someday.
Maybe someday, but not right now, because it's our job. If they're mad, cool, good.
But I hear that a lot.
No, I know.
I don't want my kid to be mad at me.
Right.
If your kid doesn't get mad at you every once in a while, you might not be doing a great job.
That's right.
No, it's
you might be doing something wrong.
They should be.
No, it's true. I think,
right.
You said it a minute ago, like we pay for their cell phone, like we pay for their car. There's all kinds of disciplines of different things that we can take from our kids or that we can use to help them navigate.
They'll live vicariously through their kid. They'll go and get them the nicer car than what they drive.
Oh, yes, but I meant then we can take it back as a discipline.
Oh, well,
That's what I'm saying. Yes, but you're right. That happens too. But I'm saying, but we have to understand that, like, not only do we own them, then we are, as adults, responsible to put the parameters around them. Like, for our kids, they don't just get their car and get to drive wherever they want. There's a rule about where they drive and when they get to drive to certain places because we're trying to protect them and keep them safe. Doesn't mean they're not mad that they can't drive to Fort Worth whenever they want, but we know best. When they, even now in this last season of life, as young people, they do not need cell phones in their room after 9 p.m.
Well, we received a lot of questions about technology.
Yeah, it's true, we did.
Lots of parents were curious, how do we handle this tech? Because now we give kids, Lillian, who's 8, wants a cell phone.
Yeah, she asked 2 years ago.
Yeah, she's not gonna get it, but she wants one, but they have iPads that they use, and so we have a lot of parents asking, so
Which can be difficult to navigate, because we didn't have those when we were kids.
No, it's true, but we have to recognize that we have to put, there's apps that you can pay attention to that you can put on your kid's phone. It's my phone, so I can put the app on the phone. Yeah. I will know their password. My son is 18 years old. I still know the password to his cell phone because I still pay for it. And the truth is, I will pick up their phone at any time and look through it and read any text I need. God's given me the wisdom to know when I needed to pick those up and read some text, and it's helped in moments. And then they did not get to sleep with their phone in their room overnight, especially in those pivotal early teenage years. Do you think a teenage boy, what would have happened if you would have had a cell phone in your room when you were a teenage boy?
Trouble.
It would have been trouble.
All kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so
with a camera on it,
Oh, Lord.
Right.
All kind of problems.
Whitney, we would have had so many boyfriends.
Yes, we
all
would
at
have
the
had
same
a
time.
lot of boyfriends. It would have been good. The truth is, something my mom always said was like, I would be like, you're not respecting my privacy. And my mom would be like, privacy? You do not get privacy in my home. That's not a thing.
Yeah. Right. And so we're talking a lot towards teenaged kids, but I think that this is something that we have to understand now, that children are more mature than we were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That now, like 8-year-olds have access and understand how to work things more than us, and so we've got to be super aware.
Yeah, I mean, you can call your wireless company and say, I want this phone shut down at 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, or Monday through Monday. You could do these things.
No.
It's just a matter of being able to implement it and make it happen.
And I think
carry
it can
out.
be hard because we want to make sure we're careful to not over-discipline. Maybe if we walked through seasons
Overcorrect.
where we were over-disciplined. We got a lot of questions in regards to that. And somebody said, I grew up in a hostile, aggressive home where discipline was taken overboard. And so now when my wife wants to instill some discipline, I'm afraid that we're creating the same environment. But I think it's important to understand that that's where wisdom comes back into play. That though we might not have seen it done the right way, that godly wisdom can teach us how to discipline in the appropriate way.
Right, and extremes are always dangerous.
Yes.
Right.
So like extreme discipline, right, is extremely dangerous.
Right.
You're grounded for 3 months. Like,
That's a long
that's
time.
a long time, you know, like extreme, or you have no discipline, or you do whatever you want.
Right.
We have to be careful to not live in these extremes. And so the Bible gives us some clarity in Proverbs 13, verse 24. It says this: whoever spares the rod, discipline, hates their children. But the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Is careful to discipline them.
Right.
And I've heard people use this verse and they, you know, they'll say, spare the rod and spoil the child. I beat my kid every day. Like,
Right.
No. It says right there in the same verse, careful
You gotta be
discipline.
careful. That's right.
And so we have to create some parameters. We have to be careful in how we discipline our kids. While we're disciplining, we have to make sure that we are not emotionally out of control.
Right.
There's a lot of different forms of discipline, but we have to make sure that in the process, we keep our junk together.
Right.
Because you should never spank your kid when you're highly emotional.
Out of anger.
Out of anger.
Right.
Because then now it's turning, or out of reaction, because then it turns into something that might be an extreme. We shouldn't yell at our kid, you know, out of when we're not under control.
Right.
Have we done it? Yeah.
For
Right.
sure.
I'd love to meet the person who never has done
Right.
it.
Right.
But that doesn't make it right. We weren't right, and I think it's important also to make sure that when you do it, it's really not a matter of if you ever do it, but when you do it, as a parent, talk to your kid. So when
Right.
you do finally level out, go back to him and say, hey, what I did was wrong.
Right.
And you know, I know that a lot of parents think that coming to their child and telling them they are wrong and these types of things is another level of vulnerability that they don't
Right.
want to get into. But it's important to explain to your
It's really
child that you were wrong, that you did something
Yeah.
the wrong way, so that way they can learn from that.
Absolutely.
Well, you're modeling to them what it's like to grow through and make a mistake and apologize. What you're teaching them in the apology is not you're a coward. It's actually, hey, what I did was a mistake, and this
Right.
is how you fix mistakes. So
Yeah.
going forward, we're going to do it different.
That's
and
really
that's going to
good.
be more invaluable than the trauma of leaving your kid hanging and with a
It's really good.
reaction for
Yeah.
the rest of his
Yeah,
life.
it's good.
Yeah.
True.
No, it's super good.
I grew up with a lot of rules, and you grew up with not as many rules.
We had some like moral rules that we did as a family, but for the most part, I think, especially for school as an example, I'll use that as an example, we kind of just did whatever we wanted in school. No one really ever looked at our progress reports, our attendance, or I had like 49 absences my senior year out of 180 days. I don't really know how I graduated, but I did. I must have been really smart or something. But I remember literally my brothers and I, all through high school, if it was raining, we just wouldn't go. We would be like, no, I'm not going, it's raining. Are you going? No, it's not.
But your
And
parents allowed that.
they didn't really care. Yeah,
Right.
they were just kind of flexible. I don't really know the word. They just didn't prioritize it. And so we didn't have a lot of rules. I would just go whenever I felt like it. And can I tell you what that did though in college for me? When I went to college, I didn't even know how to study. And so the first whole year of my college year, I had to do over again because my grades were so bad because I wasn't showing up, because I wasn't studying for the tests.
And then it led to challenges between me and you, because I'm Mr.
Right.
Structure and Systems.
Right, and so when it came to school, I didn't see a good example of that. And so now I had these kids that I'm like, and then I'm a teacher, and so I'm like, I don't really know how to do it right. Can I tell you, if you don't know how to do it right, go ask somebody that you think is doing it right. I had coffee with so many of the people here at church that I'm like, you have you're doing it better than I am. What did you do different? I asked your mom. I talked to your mom, asked questions. The more questions that you ask about things you don't know, the more you learn the culture of what someone else is doing. And then you can grab what's good and what you don't like, toss it aside, but then learn from someone else how they're doing it. And I'm telling you, my kids know they have to go to school. Like, this is a thing. And they're getting good grades because we've set an expectation for them and a culture in the house that I didn't grow up knowing. So if you're not doing it right, if you see an area of your life that you're like, oh, I'm really stinking at this part of it, go ask somebody and then do it right. Your kids are gonna be more grateful and more equipped to live life out as an adult than if they don't have perimeters.
No, it's
in
good.
their life.
I think let's hit quickly that the fact that there's lots of different forms of discipline. So you read that scripture, and I think a lot of people think of spanking, but there's lots of different ways.
No, I mean, I think spanking is a form of discipline.
Right.
If that works for that child and you're able to do it within reason and under control.
Well, like for me, I was a kid that you could just talk to me. Man, the worst thing my parents could say was that they were disappointed in me, and I was just like, I'll do whatever. My sister was getting spanked like with a hairbrush, a curling iron, like whatever my mom could find. But me, it was like all she had to do was talk to me. I remember being a little bit older and like got in trouble for sneaking and going somewhere I shouldn't have gone, and my mom was like, clean the shower with a toothbrush today. This is going to be your punishment. And like,
that's a real thing.
Different kids need to be disciplined in different ways.
Physical labor.
Yeah.
You had to do physical labor with a toothbrush. I had to do physical labor with a sledgehammer or a shovel or a wheelbarrow. And so
Mom was taking things away.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to do that? Okay. The keys are mine. Taking it away. Same thing happened with Easton a while ago. We had to take the keys away from him for a weekend.
And we do that with our kids. We had a season when they were little. We actually did it not too long ago. We had a bucket that we painted a sad face on with a Sharpie, and we called it the sad bucket.
Right.
And if they would do something, we would take a toy and literally put it in the bucket for 3 days, and they would see it. There'd be like a dinosaur head sticking out of this bucket in our living room. And Titus would be so mad.
Heartbroken.
But hey, he'd pull his junk together.
Yeah.
And so you put in the sad bucket.
That's right.
No,
Yeah.
Well, and we have the pow pow spoon.
Oh yeah, we had a pow pow spoon. We drew a sad face on a wooden spoon. We called him Mr. Pow Pow.
It's in my backpack right now.
Yeah, so we Mr. Pow Pow and Mr. Sad Bucket.
And those kids are going to start crying the rest of their lives anytime they see a sad face.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's just important to determine, though, that as parents, as the ones leading the home, that we give the face of unity, that we're in this together, that we're not like, you can go to dad and get one answer and mom and get the other.
Hey, you parents know that your kids are sneaky. They're smart. They're smarter than you think they are. If they know you. They know you, and they know your spouse, and they know who to ask when they need to ask for something.
Right.
They know when they need something materialistic, they're going to go to their mama because they go to their daddy, and they know what they're going to say.
Hey, what I say all day, every day is I say, what did mom say?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And then if they're like, I don't know, I'm like, well, let's go and ask her.
Right.
You have to have a unified front.
Yes.
You do. You have to.
And the truth is that is a unified front, whether you're the mom and dad of the kids, or whether you're the mom and stepdad of the kids, or whether you're the dad and stepmom of the kids. We got a lot of questions about that. And I think it's important that we speak to it. It says, like, my new husband thinks he's allowed to tell my daughter, his stepdaughter, when she's out of line. How do I help him see it's not his place? But the truth is, it is his place.
That's right. It's true.
When
it is.
you get married to become one. And so if you've welcomed this person into your home, do you want there to be conflict in your house, or do you want there to be someone that has your back and that is with you in the disciplining of your kids? That's what you have to understand. That's what they need. I have a stepdad and a stepmom. I didn't get them till I was a lot older in life. And so they don't discipline me because I was 30 and didn't live in their house. But had I been 3 or even 13, it definitely would have been appropriate for them to say, this is my house and these are the rules of my house. And so when you get married, it's blending families, and it's complicated, but it's necessary.
And it starts with an upfront conversation.
Absolutely.
You got to communicate it, and you got to establish the rules of the house. And you've got to be united when you establish them.
Absolutely.
Blenders, when you put things in a blender, you put a consistency of things that will make the product good in the end. And so when you're blending a family, you've got to put the right ingredients in the culture of your family
Yeah.
to make your family good. I'll go back to saying what, well, thank you. I'll go back to saying what I see as a teacher for 14 years.
Yeah.
The families that are divided, where they're not working together, and I can't tell you the stress the kids are under because they're constantly living a life of confusion.
Yeah.
If you could just do them the favor of working through and blending the right ingredients right so the kids are not worried about what mom is going to say about stepdad or vice versa, it would do them a favor.
Right.
They would be able to focus and do the work right and be happy in the classroom and be in the
Right.
place they are instead of somewhere else in their mind about the chaos that is happening in the house.
So
Blend
good.
your families well. Blend them well.
Yeah.
Do them a favor.
No, it's so good. That scripture we read about sparing the rod and spoiling the child says, but one who loves their children is careful to discipline them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to be intentional.
I just want to nail that
No,
question
get it,
a little
get
bit
it,
more
yeah.
that you asked. So if you're here and you're a blended family, right? Like you came into a marriage and already had some kids, but then you got married. You guys really have to navigate how discipline and rules are going to be handled.
Right.
Because it can't be, well, they're my kids and they're my kids.
Right.
Because if you're married and you're a unit together, we have to navigate some of those thoughts. And what I've seen time after time in counseling people is sometimes the reason that the man won't let his new wife parent or discipline his kids is because of how his ex used to act. And what we do is we put our ex-wife's face on our new wife's body, and then we think that our kids can't be led by them, or vice versa. Your ex-husband, he was a real jerk, and he was real mean, he yelled and screamed and all the things. And so now you won't let your kids be parented by this new man that's in your home. Those are conversations that really need to be navigated importantly because, man, a kid, it's a gift to have a dad. It's
Yeah.
a gift to have a mom.
Right.
And so let's not let them only be there for like the fun things, but let them help in the hard things.
Well, and that is our baggage that we talked about last week that we need to navigate.
Yeah.
That we have to look at it and recognize that's not our kids' fault. That's our fault. It's our responsibility.
And I love you because I know that some of y'all are mad at me right now.
Oh, it's okay.
But that's okay, man. I love you
That's
enough
okay.
to say some hard things. And so we've got to learn to navigate that for
Right.
our kids' benefit. The Bible, it says this in Ephesians 6:4. And I think it would be to mothers too. It says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord." It's saying that we have to talk to our kids the same way that God would talk to us.
Yes.
God gave us very clear written instructions in the Bible. He's very clear to us. And when we're talking with our kids, let's not provoke them to anger.
Right.
And sometimes as parents, when we're out of control, we literally provoke our kids to anger. And they're going crazy because we're going crazy.
Right.
But we have to calm down
Yeah.
and realize that the same way that God has grace and love and forgiveness for us, that's what we should be offering our kids.
exactly right.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No.
Man, it's not
No, of
easy.
course not.
But I think that's why the next piece is so important, that our communication with our kids is vital.
Yeah.
That kids are not meant to be seen and not heard, but that we are to communicate with them.
So many questions on
And
communication.
So
Lot of
much.
questions.
And so
Yeah.
the first one says, how do I talk to my kid? I don't understand them. They are completely opposite of me in every way.
Another one is my kid is just like me when I was young, and it drives me crazy. It's like I'm arguing with myself. How do I even talk to them?
Right?
Another one's, it feels like my teenagers speak a whole other language. It's
true,
How
man.
do we understand each other?
It's true.
Well, they might talk a whole other language.
They kinda
So
do.
come and talk to Parker or Bailey
That's
and
right.
ask them
Right.
what those words they're using mean.
Yeah, those-
and they'll help you.
Those
True.
Wikipedia words,
Oh,
some of them aren't even on
right.
Wikipedia. Yeah, you don't even know.
I as a teacher, I use one called word reference. And I go online and find out what they're saying. So they're telling me the terms and like, and I'm typing it
Yep.
and I'm like,
Yep.
what that means.
So
true.
communication can only happen with listening first.
It's
Yeah.
true.
We think that communication is us projecting words. But if Rachel and I are in conflict, I have to listen first for it to actually be a conversation.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's the same thing with our kids.
Right.
And so sometimes, because we're the parents and we're going to assert authority, we can have a hard time really listening to what they're saying or what they're feeling. And for us to have active, healthy communication, we have to learn how to listen.
And it's like what I said in week 1, when you're talking to your spouse, you shouldn't, especially in an argument, you shouldn't be thinking of the counter that you're going to say whenever she takes a breath. Same thing goes with your kids. If they're arguing with you about something, listen to them, genuinely listen to them, and don't come up with the counter that you're going to throw at them whenever they take a breath. You've got to listen to them.
No, because, even from the very little age that they are, they have feelings and emotions. I remember my counselor said to me, Whitney, small emotions in a small body are still big emotions. And I was like, oh, you're right, I'm the worst. But it's true, because they don't have the same vocabulary we do as adults to communicate, but it's our responsibility to listen and to understand and to help draw out what they're feeling.
What are they saying? What aren't they saying?
Right.
They don't have the vocabulary that we do. And so we have to, as parents, be the mature one in the conversation and identify, like, oh, they're feeling this because of this, because it's all attached. It's all spaghetti sometimes in their heads.
Yeah, sometimes they don't know how to put the words into what they're feeling, so they do it with action. I know our kids, being 6 and 8, is that how old they are? 6 and 8. They don't know how to put it all into words. And so it wasn't too long ago, last year, Lily was acting kind of crazy. She was a little more spastic, and she's super calm and collected all the time. And I noticed that she was getting irritated a lot by Titus. And when she'd get irritated, she'd punch him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we took martial arts, but not for that, right? And I would see her punch him and like pinch him and scratch him, and I was like, what is happening? So I remember pulling her aside one day. She like pushed him down, and he's like crying. Titus is usually the one doing all that stuff, so it was a little different. And so I pulled her aside and I asked Lily, what's happening? Why are we showing all these actions? What is happening in your school? What is happening? I asked questions with different scenarios. What's happening at home? What happened in school? Which is your favorite class? Just asking all the questions I could to try to figure out. And it comes to find out that she had a little girl in her class that kept walking by her and kicking her, or kept going by her and scratching her. Every time she'd sharpen her pencil, she'd poke her. And, we talked about how that was not okay, and it was not okay to display the actions that she was displaying to Titus. But she was just reacting out of the frustration of what was happening at school, because she couldn't do anything about it, and she couldn't put it into words.
So it's our job to connect those dots.
Right.
Because what's easy to do is say, go to your room, you're grounded, you hit your brother, and now they're in their room mad, but there's just something else bubbling up inside. And moms and dads, just like there's stuff bubbling in us, there's stuff bubbling in them. And so if we can listen long enough to hear why they're acting how they're acting or saying what they're saying.
It's so true. It's so true. The more you talk to your kids, the more you talk to your kids.
Right.
The way, if you're able to communicate with them when they're 6 or 7, guess what? You're going to be able to communicate with them when they're 17.
It's true.
And 18. I remember when Easton transitioned he graduated high school in June. Thank God. But he's now in college. Leading up to college, though, he's always not forthcoming with all of his communication and how he's feeling inside. But we connected the dots. As parents, you've got to connect the dots and hear even things that aren't being said, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what else?
We saw him anxious, and we saw him frustrated, easily frustrated, and flustered, and just short-tempered.
Right.
And we realized it's because he was getting ready to step into something completely different, completely new.
But because we had the culture of being able to talk since he was 7 and even before, we were able to draw it out when he was older, instead of him saying, never mind, I'm fine.
Yeah.
He was willing to sit and talk and draw it out.
Sometimes we get mad at their actions when they're really just needing us to help them guide them through their emotions.
Right.
And so it's our job to help them navigate through those feelings and give them steps of what they could do. Now, they're probably going to say, no, I don't need to do that. but they're going to start to think, what can I do?
Right.
And might take some of your wisdom. You'll be surprised what they'll actually listen to. And
Right.
but we're helping them guide those emotions, and we're teaching them how to take the steps to walk through the situation they're walking through.
How to navigate their emotions as an adult, so
Yeah.
that when they become an adult, they're not an adult who punches people
Right.
when they're frustrated and
Right.
aggressive, or punches people with their words, maybe not their actual fist.
Communication takes listening. Yelling at your kid, what's wrong with you? Stop
Right.
doing that. What's happening?
Right.
Yelling those things probably isn't helping
No.
them. But asking them some other context clues will really be a big
What
deal.
that's doing, it's creating insecurity big in
Right.
them.
Right.
And so we're the ones that are responsible too to build them up, not create insecurity to be the thing that runs their life. And so we
Yeah.
have to be very careful with our words when they're doing something dumb, because kids do
Yeah.
dumb things. But don't say words like, "What are you doing? What is wrong with you?" Because
Right.
when that kid grows up to be a
Or you're
student,
an idiot or stupid
Right,
or shut
right.
up. Right.
when that student grows up to be a student in high school, guess what they're going to think anytime they have any kind of thought that is productive, or they have a question about
Right.
in school, they're going to think, what are you even talking about? That's stupid. You're like,
Yeah.
you're building them up in the wrong
And
way.
like Aaron said, we don't always do it right.
Right,
We're not
right.
up here like,
No.
we always are under control and perfect, and never say, what are you doing over there?
No,
Like, it
no.
happens.
Right.
No, we yell, we screw it up. I think we yell sometimes because we're trying to fix it, because we're trying to solve it, because we're frustrated. We don't want them to like end up like, a loser in life, and so
Right.
we just yell out of the reaction.
It's true.
Sometimes we're yelling out of our own baggage and struggle. We had a question where someone said, when I look at my son's face, I see my ex, and their personalities are so similar. And so I've caught myself projecting what I feel about my ex onto my son when we get in an argument. And it's really true. That can happen when we put, in the same way we can put our ex's face on our new spouse, we could even do it to our kids because they look similar. They look like them, and maybe they have a similar personality as them. But again, it's our job to deal with some of our baggage so we don't
Yeah, it's not
project
their
it
fault.
on them. Right.
It's not their fault.
And we don't hurt them. No, right.
Right.
That we
And
would
we gotta understand
listen and that we would actually communicate. And it's hard, but it takes godly wisdom
Right, we said
in
at
order
the top
to do that.
wisdom reigns supreme. I read a verse, but I want to read some of the context. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6, talking about wisdom. Commit yourselves, mom and dad, wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. And then it says, talk about them when you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up.
Yeah.
That we need to commit ourselves to living a godly life. The most important thing you can do for your kid is be in a good relationship with Jesus.
Right.
Let me tell you something. It would be better for you to be in a good relationship with God than make $1 million a year.
Right.
I promise. I promise. I know plenty of rich families and rich kids that are sad and depressed and
Right.
got all kind of issues going on. You being happy and healthy in your relationship with God is the most important thing.
Hey, it'll be better for your kids if they learn how to have a relationship with the Lord than if they're the next soccer star, if they're the next baseball star.
Right.
You need to get this, parents, because I know parent after parent after parent that are skipping Sundays, skipping Wednesdays. Why? Because they got to go to baseball practice. They got to go to soccer practice. They've got to do all these things. And I'm telling, are they going to make it to be a star? Maybe. But is it worth the sacrifice that they're going to lose
And I think-
if they don't have the relationship with the Lord?
Yeah.
It's super.
And I always get nervous whenever we say that because I know that there's people that are kind of wrestling with that.
Right.
But I want you to know that we say that out of love
We do.
and out of 20 years of people experience.
Yeah.
Out of 20 years, you know how many seniors I've seen graduate from high school over 20 years? A lot.
Yeah.
And I see it time and time again that like what we invest in our kids is what stays there. And so that verse that says, commit yourselves, then it says to talk about it with our kids.
Yeah.
That we should spend some time intentionally talking about what are they learning in the
Right.
Bible? What are they learning in Living Kids? What did Pastor Parker preach on Wednesday? What do we learn? Like, here at Living Church, we did the whole fruit series. And while we were learning about a fruit here, they were learning about the same fruit in Living Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do that every once in a while. It's a great opportunity for us to be talking about it. And the Bible gives us 4 different times. When you're at home, when you're driving somewhere, this is while you're traveling, Aaron talked the other day about how him and Easton took a trip and Easton was trapped in the car. Yeah. When Rachel drives the kids to school in the morning, she's talking to them about not always the Bible, but about biblical things, and pray for them before they go to school. And then when they wake up, we pray for our kids every morning before they go to school.
Right.
And every night before they go to get bed, we read them a Bible story and we pray for them. We just put some investment in them. Yeah. And the Bible gives us this promise. Proverbs 22 verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he's old, he will not depart from it. It's a promise that if we train them up in the way they should go, then when they get old, they're not going to run away from it.
It's true.
Now, I hear people misquote this verse. Say, well, I trained him up. I took him to church once a month. I took him once a month, and my wife, and we kind of went, I trained him up. I'm like, no, I'm not really sure that you trained them up.
Is that planting them in the house of the Lord?
Right.
When you do that?
Right.
And so my mom's a gardener, and so she would always have different plants and things. She was working in the yard. And every once in a while, she would have my dad go out and pound a stake into the ground. He'd pound this big stake in the ground next to a plant, and then she would tie ropes from the stake to the tree or to the plant so that she could train it in the way that it would go.
Right.
And so moms and dads, we have to be rigid in some things. And we tell our kids, hey, this is how it is. We're going to train them in this. And getting them connected into God's house is a big piece of that.
It's huge.
No, we say it, I mean, we quote that scripture you just quoted all the time here at Living Church. And we talk about it, and I get super passionate about it because, man, we read all the baby books. We try so hard, like you said, we buy them the car, we do the things, we want them to be successful in their life. But the Bible tells us the promise that if we will plant our kids in God's house, they will flourish. And y'all talked about the sports thing, and so I have to just give a real fast testimony. I might cry because I haven't ever said it out loud before, but I get it. I get it. You want them, because the moms and dads who are like, yeah, they might not be the soccer star, but they can get a scholarship to college, and I can't afford college. And so I'm going to work it, and I'm going to plan it, and I'm going to place them in the right spaces so that they can succeed and flourish in life. Can I tell you, this is the best place.
It's true.
The Bible's full of that promise. And so our son played golf in high school, and man, he was good.
Yeah.
And the coaches told us if he'll stick with this, he will get a scholarship to college, and it'll take care of things. And we were like, yes, Lord, because that's what we needed him to get. But he was serving in this house. He was playing drums on Wednesday night. He was helping with production on Sunday. He was doing a lot of things. And so he came to us and said, Mom, Dad, I kind of have to make a choice between golf and between serving in God's house. And he said, you know, I know that this golf thing, I can get good scholarship, and he wants to be an architect or use that somehow to build God's house too, and all the things. And he said, I know this is my plan, but I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
That's right.
And so we made the choice. We made him have the conversation with his coach, and man, his coach was kind of disappointed in him and kind of like, I respect you, but dude, you're blowing it. But last year, he applied for school and applied for a scholarship randomly on a whim. And then one day, all of a sudden, he got called down to the counselor's office. He got an incredible scholarship beyond, like he couldn't go to TCC down the street for as little as what he's paying now to go to school. Why? Because those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish. Our God is bigger than any baseball scholarship, any situation and circumstance that we as parents can plan and scheme on our own. Yeah. Our God is bigger than any private school education that we pay for, so we guarantee that they'll be in the top 5 or 10% to get into the college of their dream. Our God is mighty and powerful, and all he tells us, y'all, take it from a mama who was 19 years old when her son was born. Those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish. It's the only scripture that we like applied to the circumstances of our kids and raising them, of like, God, we do not know what we are doing.
That's right. You took it. I was gonna say it, and you took that whole story
Well, sorry,
about
it's so
but
good.
listen, hey, we didn't do it right as parents.
No, a lot.
A lot of things we did. We don't have this big fat account for our kids to go to college. We didn't do it.
Right.
We couldn't do it. But mom, understand, if you plant your child in this house, they're gonna be okay.
Right.
Dad, if you sacrifice and make sure that your child is here, God is going to take care of the rest. He's
That's
going
right.
to take care of it. You just got to get it, because if you do, the relationship that they're going to have with the Lord is going to get them through so much more than sacrificing that
For something.
by making sure that they make the team.
Right.
And by making sure that they do so well that they get some sports scholarship. It's so important.
It's so important to understand. And so sorry when we get a little emo or we get a little heavy or we say it over and over again, but I just want you to hear it and really understand that that's who our God is, that he's faithful and good, that the boy who got kicked off the bus every single year and had 149 detentions, 1 year,
117.
117 detentions
117.
in 1 year, because Jonathan and Brenda said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The kid who snuck out to a lot of concerts and did a lot of crazy things, because they said, as for me and my house, we're going to be planted in God's house. These girls, we could have been a mess, but instead, God loved us and took care of us because our mama said, this is the most important thing. And so that's why it's a big deal.
I had to look up another verse. We don't
I
have it
saw
in
you.
our
I was
notes.
waiting to see if you got it. Okay, good.
Psalms 75, verse 6 and 7. It's not on the screen. It says, promotion
Yep.
comes neither from the east nor from the west nor from the south, but God is the judge. He puts down one and he exalts another. Promotion comes from above. And so we can chase around a whole lot of things in life, but there's promises in the word that if we would plant our kids in the house of the Lord, that they're gonna flourish, and
Yeah.
God wants our kids to flourish.
Super good. And so, man, Living Kids, it's there for your kids. It's not just there to babysit them so you can pay attention and hear, but it's there to teach them, to partner, to come alongside Pastor Brent, Pastor Parker in Living Youth. We're committed to come alongside and to work together in raising the kids of this house.